Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing some cottage style DIYs. For this project, I picked up this old spoon rack from the thrift store and I decided to turn this into a measuring cup holder for my kitchen. So I did remove these two pieces so that I could hang my measuring cups. And these are just tacked on with a few nails so they were easy to just pop off of there. And I'm just going to set these aside for a little bit later because I'm definitely not going to throw these out. We're going to be using them in another project. Now, I actually didn't mind this wood color, but because I removed those two pieces, I needed to paint over this since the coloring didn't match. So I'm just going to go over this with one coat of Waverly Black chalk paint, but I am leaving the edges the wood color, and I'm also leaving those two pieces the wood color as well. And then because I did really like that wood color, I wanted some of it to show through. So as my paint was drying, I just grabbed some wet paper towels and I'm going to wet distress this whole thing. Not only will this let some of the wood show through, but it also gives it a bit of an aged old look. Once that's completely dry, I am really into the whole vintage hand-painted look right now, so I want to make some little vines across this entire thing. So I'm using my pencil to just draw out those vines in a continuous pattern all the way up the spoon rack. My goal is to have some dark green vines going all the way up this, so since I am painting on a black background, I need to do a lighter color green first, so here that is just what I'm doing, taking some of my light green paint and a small brush and going over all those pencil lines. Then once that is completely dry, I am going to mix some regular green paint with a little bit of black paint to make a dark green and go back over all of those lines. And since I have that light green paint underneath here, it will make that green color pop out more. Then once I've completed that, I will go back in with that light green color and do a bunch of leaves on my vine. And just like before, I am going to go in with that darker green color and cover all of those leaves. Then I'm going to let all of this completely dry, and because the wood on here does have a little bit of a sheen, I want to blend in my painting with that. And also because this is going to be used in my kitchen, I want to be able to clean this. So I am sealing this with some dishwasher safe Mod Podge. And this is going to give it that little bit of a gloss finish that I wanted, but also I'll be able to clean this. Then to finish this up, I just lined up my measuring cups where I wanted them on this spoon rack. And then to hang these, I'm just going to use some little gold hooks that I can screw into those wood pieces. For the pieces left over on that old spoon rack, I decided to turn this into a picture holder. I thought if I put both of these pieces together, I could just slip a little picture in between them. I'm going to use some of this Easy Off and spray this onto these so that I can get some of that stain off of here and really make these look old and vintage. So I'll just spray the Easy Off on here and let it sit in the sun for a few hours, and then I scrubbed it off with a little bit of soap and water. And this is what it looked like once I scrubbed it off and sat this in the sun to dry for a few hours. You can see it lightened up this wood and took most of the stain off, but left a little on there so that it looks old and worn. To make this into a picture holder, I'm just going to add some wood glue there on each edge and put this together. And when these are together, there's still a small gap in the center where I can slide a picture down in there. For this project, I'm going to be using some spindles. If you already have some spindles laying around, you can just use those, even if they are different kinds of spindles. But for this, I went to Lowe's and I picked up 4 spindles for around $2 each. These are about 3 feet long, and I cut down 2 of these, leaving about 1.5 to 2 inches on both edges. Then I gave everything a quick little light sanding just to get off any rough pieces from these. I'm going to start by toning down the yellow in these. I do like the wood look of them, but I'm just going to use some of my homemade wax, which is just some Waverly clear wax mixed with a little bit of tan paint. And I'm just going to use a dry rag and go over all 4 of these pieces. Then I'll set them aside and let them completely dry. Then I want to age these up a little bit, so I'm going to use some of my homemade black wax, which is just antiquing wax mixed with a little bit of black acrylic paint, and a fluffy brush, which I'm just going to put a tiny bit of this black wax on there, and I'm going to dab most of it off onto a paper plate, so that way this is just getting down into all that wood grain and really aging up this wood. I also concentrated this black wax into random spots all over this just to give it even more of a vintage look. Once it's dry, then I'm going to start marking where I want to drill holes so that I can turn this into a blanket ladder. I measured down about 1.5 inches down each post, and I'm going to use my drill and pre-drill holes all the way through those pieces. For the smaller pieces that are going to go in between, I'm just going to pre-drill my holes in the centers. And once I had those holes drilled in, then I could just add some screws to turn this into a blanket ladder. And to finish it off, I'm just going to add some D-rings to the top of here to hang it. For this project, I'm going to be using these 2 wood rings. I've had these in my stash. I really don't remember where they came from, but I thought they would be cute to hang with these little hangers I can screw down into them. I'm also going to be using some of this canvas pad paper from Dollar Tree. It's just a little booklet full of these thick canvas papers. Starting out, I'm just going to paint both of these wood rings with just 1 coat of my Waverly black chalk paint. I'm going to let those completely dry, and then to age these up and kind of tone down the black so that it doesn't look so harsh, I'm going to go over these with some of my Waverly antiquing wax and a paper towel. For the inside of these rings, I decided to use some of these dried roses from my garden. I just picked a few out that I liked and would fit into those rings, and I'm going to lay them down on this canvas paper and make sure that they fit properly inside of there. But then I wanted to flatten these a little bit, so I'm going to wrap them in parchment paper and use my little mini iron and go over these to flatten them onto the canvas paper. And I'll do the exact same thing to the second one. This is a really easy way to get pressed flowers really quickly. Then I'm going to lay my rings on top of the canvas paper and use a pencil to draw around these so that I can cut them out. To secure the dried flowers, I'm just using a little bit of white school glue and dabbing it onto the back of the flowers and then pressing it down to the canvas paper. Then to secure the rings down onto the canvas, I am just using some gel super glue around all the edges and then pressing these wood rings down on there. Then to finish these off, I'm just screwing in those little hangers. This project was inspired by this candle holder that I saw at Antique Farmhouse. I really wanted to recreate it. I believe they used 4x4s for this, but I'm just going to be using some scrap 2x4s, which thankfully my husband was kind enough to do all the cuts for me. I ended up using 4 little pieces of 2x4. I put 2 of those pieces together to make it into a 4x4 size. On the back side, the 2x4s are screwed together with 2 screws in each piece, and then the 4 pieces are put together using some wood braces on the back side and 1 screw up through the middle center. And the bottoms are just cut at a 45-degree angle. To make this into a candle holder, I used a spade bit and drilled 3 holes on each side. To make these so that they are straight up, I drilled in and then down. So all in all, it's a really simple process to turn some scrap 2x4s into this candle holder. I really loved the dark aged wood of the inspiration, so I am first going in with some antiquing wax and a big brush and just painting this antiquing wax all over this candle holder. I let the antiquing wax sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to use a paper towel and just wipe off all of the excess. Once I have that finished, then I'll just set this aside and let it completely dry. Then once again, to age this up and make it more vintage and also to darken up that antiquing wax, I'm going to go over this with my homemade black wax. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.